Okay, so let's start the session on selecting data from database tables. Selecting data from database tables into our program data objects, variables, work area, internal table. Can we select data into constant? No, we cannot. We define a constant and assign the value at the time of declaration. Okay, so it won't allow you to place any new value inside the constant. Okay. So we can select data from database tables and we can keep the data in the program level using variable, work area or internal table. Let's assume this is the database table. Let's assume this is the database table we have, which is available in the database. So whenever we need to get some data like employee data, sales data, purchasing data, what we need to do? We need to select data from the existing database tables into our program level to apply some calculations to display some final output. We're not going to display data available in the table as it is. First, we select the data from different tables and we combine the data, apply some calculations, right? Sometimes we aggregate the data and display the output, okay, as per the requirement by the user, okay. How they are expecting the output. We are going to apply some calculations and validations and display the data. For that, we need to select data from one or more database tables. In our previous program, in our previous program example, what we did, we created a program and we populated the internal tables using some temporary data like local data. We did not select from any database, right? We populated the data using some sample values within the program itself, right? We did not select from the database tables, right? So my understanding, like as per that example, so you should be able to understand how to define a variable, how to define a work area, how to define an internal table. We have also applied different operations on the internal table, like append, right, insert and collect statement. We have seen the difference. So when we use insert statement and when we use append statement and when we use collect statement. The important interview question here is difference between append and collect statement, right? So the difference is if you use append, it will just add one new record to the internal table. But if you use collect statement, it will check for the existing record. If the new record is matching with the existing record, it will sum up the numerical fields, not the all fields, but it will sum up the numerical field values. It won't add as a new record. Okay, it will add it as a it will add it to the existing record totals, right? It will sum up the entire numerical values. We have seen that example. Now, in general, in projects, we don't populate values within the program with some sample data, right? So we select data from database tables into our program to apply some validations, calculations, right? So in which scenario we use variable, in which scenario we use work area, in which scenario we use internal table. When we are selecting data from database tables, the data which is available in the database tables, which is stored permanently inside the database tables. So we select that data into our program level, application server level, right? That memory is not permanent, right, in application server level. So as long as the program execution is active, so the memory is available, right? So when we use variable, when we use work area, when we use internal table, take this as example. We have a table with three fields: employee ID, employee name, and city. Now, when we are selecting the data from this database table into our program level, right? So in which case we use variable, in which case we use work area, and in which case we use internal table. Okay. So when we are selecting only one field, for example, I want to know city of the employee ID 100. I'm passing in the select statement. I want to select the data where employee ID equal to 100. And which field I want to select? Only city. I don't want rest of the fields. I don't want rest of the fields of the employee ID 100, like employee ID and name. I just want the city value copied into my program level. In this case, what is the suitable data object? We are selecting only single field value. What is the suitable data
Variable.
object here? Variable. So we can use
Variable.
variable here. So we are selecting only one record, and also in that one record, we don't want all the fields. We want only one single field value to be moved to our program level. So in this case, variable is enough. We can take variable in the select statement. Now, in another example, we want to select a complete record. Record in the sense here in this example, how many fields we have in the each record?
Three fields.
In the table, in database table, we have three fields, right? And there are two different scenarios. Do we need to select all three fields data of a single record? All three fields data of a single record, or only the selected fields? Only the selected fields of the record. Always remember, we do not select all fields data every time. It will decrease the performance of the program. We select whatever the fields required for our program logic. Here we have three fields, right? For example, I just want employee ID and name. I don't want city. I don't want that city data in my program. I'm not using it. Then I'll select only these two fields data, right? And one single record. I'm selecting employee ID 100, employee ID and employee name. One single record. In this case, can we use variable?
No, not possible.
So which one is the suitable data object?
Work area.
In this case, we need to use work
Work.
area because we are selecting a single record, more than one field, right? More than one field, right? You need to define a work area by using these two fields. How can you define a work area? Using
Data.
type structure. Types begin off, end off.
Local structure.
First,
Local
we need to
structure.
define a local structure with required fields, whatever the fields you want to select in the same order, right? And then define work area using data statement with respect to the type structure. You need to list out all the fields which you are selecting, right? Let's say I want to select all the fields. I want to select all the fields. I don't want any selected fields. I want to select all the fields of the record. In this case, you don't need to define the type structure. You can define work area with reference to this database table name. Whatever the table name, you need to use that in the data declaration. You don't need to create a type structure because you are not selecting any selected fields, right? You are selecting all the fields of the table. So use table reference, direct database table reference. It will define the work area with all the fields of the database table. Okay? Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, I have another requirement where I need to select data of multiple employees. Data of multiple employees and their corresponding city. So two fields and multiple records. And I want to select multiple employees and their corresponding city. Each record contains here two fields. So which one is the suitable data object here to select the data and keep the data in the program level?
Internal table.
Here we need to use internal table.
Yeah.
Why? Because we are selecting multiple records.
Multiple records
For
with
example,
multiple fields.
the condition is like select records from employee database table where city equal to Hyderabad. That is what my condition. I want to select all the employees who are working from Hyderabad. We have multiple records for Hyderabad city, right? Two records. In this example, we have two records. We are expecting two records because city is not a primary key. City is not a primary key in employee table, so that we can have repeated entries for the same employee from different cities. Sorry, multiple employees from the same city, right? In this case, we can expect more than one record. So if we need to select only selected fields of multiple records, what you need to do? Define a type structure
Type
and
structure.
mention all the fields whatever you want to select and define an internal table with reference to the type structure, right? And in the other scenario, if you don't want to restrict any fields, you want to select all the fields of the table and multiple records and all the fields, right? In this case, you don't need to define a type structure. You can directly
Type
take a
structure.
database table
Table
reference
name.
because you are
Table
not
name.
selecting any selected records, right?
Yes.
So we use select statement to select the data from database table into application layer level. And we place the data into corresponding data object, variable, work area, or internal table. Once the data is in internal table, how to process the data of internal table? For that we use a loop statement.
Loop or the read
Loop
statement.
statement. Loop statement will process all the records of the internal table one by one. Okay, it will place records one by one into work area. Okay, so if there are 100 records in the internal table, how many times this loop statement will execute?
100 times.
100
100
times. 100.
times. So whatever the logic you kept inside the loop and end loop, right? That logic also will execute for 100 times. That's why you need to be very careful when you are placing any logic inside a loop and end loop. You need to make sure that logic is really necessary to execute 100 times or not, right? If that logic is not to execute for multiple times or for each record, if that logic is for only one time, don't keep that logic inside loop and end loop because unnecessarily it will execute for multiple times. It will decrease the performance of the program. Okay, that is what loop statement. We have another statement called read. This is also to read internal table record into work area. Loop statement also places records one by one into work area, right? Read statement is also to place internal table record into work area. But what is the difference? Why we have two different statements, loop statement and read statement? Very important here. Loop statement will process all the records of the internal table. If there are 100 records, it will loop for 100 times and process all the records one by one. But here read statement is different. Read statement executes only once. It will place only one record, any one record from internal table to work area, right? It only one record. When you need to select only one record from internal table to work area, what is the suitable statement? Read statement.
Read.
But when you process all the records of the internal table one by one, we need to use a loop statement. It's very important interview question. Difference
Loop
between loop
statement.
statement and read statement. So loop statement is to process all the records of the internal table, but read statement is used to process only one single record. It will
One
place
record.
one single record from internal table to work area. For
Table
that,
to
you need
work
to
area.
pass the condition. What is that single record you want to select? You need to pass that value. Okay, then only it can identify that single record it needs to select. Okay, is everyone clear? Is
Yes, sir.
everyone clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so let's see what are the different select statements. So what is the purpose of select statements?
To fetch the all the records from the database table.
Not all the records. Depends on the scenario. In one case,
Scenario.
we
Yeah.
select only single field value. In one case, we select only single record. In the other case, we select multiple records. And again,
Multiple
that
records.
record may contains all the fields of the database table or only single field of the
Will
database
field
table
of
or
the
only
database table.
selected fields of the database table. Okay. But what is recommended approach? We should not select all the fields of the database
Fields.
table unless it is required. Okay, we should select only required fields to improve the performance of the program. Okay, to read data from database table to application program or application server, right? So once the data is selected into program level, where we need to keep the data? Data objects like variable, work area, or internal table.
Internal table.
Okay, clear? Now, what are the different types of select statements? What are the different types of select statement we use? First scenario, when you want to select only a single record, for example, in this example, let's assume employee ID is the primary key. Okay. Now, for each employee ID, how many records you can find in this table?
One record.
For each employee ID,
One
you can find
Only
only
one
one record. One record. So when I am selecting data from this database table, if I pass the condition of employee ID, I want to select a record of a specific employee ID. How many records you are going to find? Only one single record,
one
right?
re one
So you
record
can
only.
easily identify by looking at the primary key. If I pass the employee ID as a condition, as a filter, how many records you can get? How many records you are going to expect? Only one single record. If you pass employee ID as a condition, right, where employee ID equal to 100, hey, select a record where employee ID equal to 100. It will select only one record, right? Because you are using the primary key. Let's assume in another scenario, you are selecting data by city. Can we expect a single record if you select
No,
data
sir.
by city? City might
No.
be same for multiple employees because it's not a primary key, right? It's not a primary key. So in the database table, you can find same city for multiple employees. So if you use city in the condition, can you expect a single record?
No, sir.
We can
No, right? There
expect
is a
multiple records.
possibility of multiple records.
Multiple.
So we cannot guarantee that we are going to select multiple records because we don't know that for some specific city, there might be only one employee, right? But there is no guarantee, right? In future, there might be more records with the same city. There is a possibility, right? For the city, uh, like multiple employees from the city. So that we are going to select multiple records. In this case, we use a internal table, right? So now let's assume we need to select a single record and we know that we are passing the primary key value. We know that we are going to pass the primary key value. We know the employee ID and we want to find the rest of the values. We know the employee ID. We want to find the rest of the values of that specific employee ID. Now, what is a suitable select statement? Select single. Select single statement, right? Select single statement we use to select the how many records?
Single record.
One record.
To select the single record from database table to which data object? What are the suitable data objects here?
Work area.
Internal table, not work area.
Why internal table? Are we selecting multiple records? Are we selecting multiple records using select single?
No,
No,
single
no.
record.
We are selecting a
No, sir.
single record.
Okay,
Then what
okay,
is the
understood.
suitable data object?
Work area.
Work area.
Work
If we
area.
are selecting multiple fields, let's assume I am selecting only single field. Single record. In that single record, in the single record 100 employee ID 100, I don't want multiple fields. I just want the city. In this case, do we need work area? If you are selecting
No.
multiple fields like employee ID, name, and city, then in this case you need to use a work area to place a single record because you are selecting a complete or required fields, right? It's a record. But when you are selecting only a single field, not the record, only a single field value you are selecting. What is a suitable data object?
Variable.
Variable.
That single record can be with multiple fields or only a single field, right? In this case, we use a work area or a variable. Okay, is everyone clear?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
There is another scenario when we use select single star to select
All the records.
all the fields
All the
of the
fields.
record, all the fields of the
See,
records in the
in
sense when you are
this
talking about multiple records on internal table, right? Here we are talking about selecting a single record. We need to make sure we are selecting only a single record to
all
select
the
all the
fields
fields
from
of the
single record.
single record, all the fields. Like if there are 200 fields in the database table, if you are using select single star, it's going to select all the 200 fields of that record,
Table. Yeah.
single record. Here, what is the database declaration we need to use to define the work area? What is the syntax?
Work
Hmm.
syntax like
Data,
local
work area name. Do we
work
need
area.
local structure here? I'm saying that we need to select all the fields of that record, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Work area.
We can use a table name or
Type
table
Work
structure.
area.
zdemo
Employee.
database table name.
Yeah.
Whatever the database table name available, we use this, right? Now it will define a work area with all the fields of the with all the fields of the database table.
Database.
If there are 200 fields, it will define a work area with the 200 fields. Okay. When you need to select a single record with all the fields, we use a select single star statement. This is the syntax. Now, next scenario, select single F1, F2, F4, any selected fields of the database table, right? No need to be in sequence, but random fields of the database table. Here also, we are selecting a single record, but selecting only
Multiple
required
fields.
fields to select selected fields of the single record. To select the selected fields of the single record. What is the syntax here? To define a work area with only selected fields of the database table, we need to define a type structure with
Structure.
required
Local
fields.
structure.
Begin
Begin of
off, provide some
period.
name and
Chatting.
maintain all the
Fields.
fields
Fields.
F1, type and data element, corresponding data element or data type like this and length, right? So usually we use data element of the corresponding database table, whatever the data element available in the database table.
Chatting.
F2, type,
Chat demo. F2.
whatever the corresponding data element we have, we need to use here. F4.
End of divided.
End of ty underscore data. Now here we are maintaining the fields which we need to select from database tables. So here we don't take complete database table reference, but we take the type structure. Okay. Then it will define a work area with only these 3 fields, even though there are 300 fields in the database table. You need to write your select statement with only these selected fields. With only this selected fields, we should not use select single star when you need to select only required fields, right? When you need to select only required fields. Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Next. When there is a scenario to select one or more records from database table to your program level, and we keep the data in which data object? When we are expecting one record or more records,
Internal table.
internal table we need to use. If you are using internal table, that doesn't mean that it is always selecting multiple records. Sometimes we select only single record, right? Because, for example, if you take this example, if there is one employee who are from Chennai, how many records we have for Chennai?
Only one record.
Only one employee from Chennai, right? In future, there might be
Yes.
more, right? At present, we have only one employee from Chennai location. So that's why there is only one record. But if you take Hyderabad,
Multiple
sorry, in this
records.
example, I think we don't have multiple records, right?
It is same.
Ah, sorry, for Hyderabad, we have multiple employees. Sorry, for
Yeah.
Hyderabad, we have multiple employees, 100 and 300, right? So we can expect
Yes.
multiple records, right? If you take Hyderabad. So in this case, we can expect one or more records when we take a non-primary key field of the table. It is not necessary to have a non-primary key fields. Even we need to use combination of multiple primary keys. In that case also, we expect more than one record. Now, here also same. We select multiple records with selected fields or multiple records with all the fields. We select multiple records with selected fields and we select multiple records with all the fields. So when you need to select all the fields of the each record. So what is the statement? What is the syntax? Select. Select is the statement. We don't use a select single. Select star. What is the select star? What is the select star statement?
Select
Select all the records.
all the fields.
Select multiple records, one or more record with all the fields.
With the fields.
With all the fields of the database table. Here, okay, to select one or more records with all the fields of the database table. We are not selecting any selected fields. So what is the syntax in this example? Syntax is select star from.
Table.
Sorry, first we need to define it, right? What is the syntax to define? Data.
Data.
Provide some internal
IT.
table name. IT underscore data.
Data.
Type.
Internal
Type table
Type
of
table of TY underscore,
demo
sorry, database table name. ZDemo
demo
employee. Because we
employee.
are not selecting any selected records, right? So the alternative is type standard table of. You can also use this. Both are same. Okay. Type standard table of. There are three types of internal table: standard table, sorted table, and hashed internal tables.
hashed
I'll
table.
explain those three different internal tables in the next session. This is how we define the internal table, right? When we need to select all the fields of the internal table, and when we expect one or more records. Okay. Now,
I'm not a
what is the other scenario? When we need to select only
Selected
selected
fields.
fields of the database table for each record. We are selecting one or more records with only
With
selected
the
fields.
selected
With only
fields.
selected fields. Selected fields of the internal table. Here, I'm going to use same type structure. I'm not going to define again, right? But if you think that work area structure and internal table structure is different, define one more type structure. But here in this example, I'm just using the same type structure. I am assuming that we are selecting the same fields F1, F2, and F4 from the database table. So we have defined a internal table to select only specific records, selected records. Okay. Now we have observed the syntax to define the internal table, to define the internal table or work area. Now let's see how to write the select statement as per this requirement, each requirement. First, let's see first requirement of selecting. Let's see the first requirement of selecting a single record with all the fields of the database table. How do we write select statement? Select single star. What is the next syntax? From database table name. Select single star from which table? Provide the database table name. Into where you need to place that data. Once you selected from the database table, where you need to place the data? Into work area. Work area or variable. If you are selecting only single field, use variable. But in this
Variable.
example, since you are using select star, so we need to define a work area. Into work area. And how many records you are trying to select here? By using select single statement, how many records you are trying to select?
Single record with all fields.
Single record, right? Single record. You need to say that single record, right? You need to ask that exact single record, right? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Which
Based on
matches to the
condition.
requirement. Then, how can you ask? By using where condition.
Using where condition.
Where and what is the condition you have to pass? What is the primary key of this database table?
EMP
EMP ID equal to some 100. So in this case, you are saying that, hey, I want a record from database table, right? So where employee ID equal to 100, I want one single specific record, right, which matches to this condition. But let's assume there are two primary keys in the table. There are two primary keys in the table, employee ID and department. In this case, if you pass only the employee ID, can you get that exact single record? Let me show you an example here. It's very important. Please observe carefully. If you take this example, let's say there is a department. There are three fields: 100, department is SAP, and city is HYD. 101, department is SAP, and city is HYD. 102, department is Java, Chennai. 103, department is SAP, Bangalore. Now, let's assume this is the database table with three fields. I'm using select single star. What is the requirement? I need to select one single record, right? What is that single record you want to select? Where, let's assume these two are the primary keys, employee ID and department. These two are the primary keys. Now, if you pass only employee ID, let's assume employee ID equal to, if you pass by employee ID, you can have uh, unique values. Let me change the value like this. Again 100 with a different department. Again 100 with a different department. Right? The combination is different, right? So these two are unique records. These two are unique records with different combination of primary key values. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
First record is 100 and SAP. Second record is 100 and Java. These two are primary
Yeah.
keys. Right? So it will check by combination of two values. Then these two are unique records. But when you are selecting a single record, if you pass only employee ID, are you going to get the single record? If you
No,
pass
sir.
only where employee ID equal to 100, you're not saying that what is that exact record you want, because there are multiple records with employee ID 100, right?
Yes.
You're not asking the select statement, what is that exact record you want, right? But if I ask like this, where empid equal to 100, then we have multiple records, still not clear which record we need to select, right? And dept equal to sap, sorry, yeah, sap. Now tell
AP
me,
only.
are we providing correct input or not for the select statement? Which record it needs to select? Now the select statement will find, can find this exact record what we are trying to select, because we are passing two primary keys, right? This is a unique combination, right? It can find only one single record with this combination of data in the database table, right? So what do we need to understand here? It is mandatory to pass all the primary key values of the table when you are using select single statement. What is mandatory? We need to pass all the primary key values of the database table. Is it clear? If we have 10 primary keys in the database table, we need to pass 10 field values in the where condition. Then only it will accurately find that specific record. Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Let's assume in our example only employee ID is the primary key. So here we assume like only employee ID is the primary key. That's why I'm passing only employee ID in the where condition. Right? What is mandatory? Pass all primary key values of the database table. Okay. This is mandatory. You need to pass all primary key values of the database table. Okay. Is everyone clear? This is how we write a select statement when we want to select a single record with all the fields. Next scenario. When you need to select only required fields. For this also, we need to pass all the primary key values of in the where condition. Okay. And what is the difference here? Instead of using select star, when you want to select only selected fields, provide fields F1, F2, and F4 in a same sequence. Whatever the sequence you maintained in the type structure, maintain the same sequence here. Mention the field names instead of star. What you need to do? Mention the field names. So then it will select only those selected fields. It will select only those selected fields from database table into work area. Is everyone clear? Here also passing all the primary key values in the where condition is mandatory. Wherever you are using select a single statement. What is mandatory? What is mandatory?
To pass all the primary
All the
key
primary
values
keys
of the
of the
database.
database table in the where condition is mandatory. Then only you can find that exact record, right? Next, how we select data into internal table. What is the syntax? If you need to select all the fields of the single record, what is the syntax? Select star from database table into
Into
where?
internal table.
Into we need to keep this data in the internal table, not into work area. We cannot keep multiple records in work area, right? There is one additional syntax here, into table. We confuse most of the times when we are learning, we confuse here. We forgot to add right table statement, and we see some errors. Okay, when you are trying to select multiple records using select statement, always use into table and internal table name. For example, some IT underscore data. What is the internal table we have defined? IT data, right? Yes, into data where provide some condition where city equal to some value. Here primary key fields of the database table are not mandatory in the where condition. Okay, all primary key fields of the database table are not mandatory in the where condition, but it is recommended to pass at least a few primary keys so that it will improve the performance of the select statement. Okay, if you can pass any primary key, right, as many primary key values as possible in where condition, it will improve the performance of the select statement. Okay, clear? Next, how to select only selected fields? Just same syntax, just maintain fields which we defined in the type structure in the same order. Don't flip the order, you need to maintain in the same order, whatever the order you maintained in the type structure. But before that, always remember, take this order, right? These field names, these random field names in the same order as like the database table. Open the database table. Which one is the first available field? Which one is the second available field? Which one is the next available field? Keep them in the same sequence. Okay. And in the select statements also, you maintain same order. Okay. Clear? If you can add more fields in the where condition, right, it will improve the performance of the select statement. You can select limited data. You can select limited data which is really required for you in the program. Okay, always remember what SAP recommends. Always keep your result data low as much as possible. Don't select all the records from the database table into your internal table, because where the data permanently available in database tables, right? Where this database
Yes.
table available in database layer, that is a separate server. Where we write these programs? Application layer
layer.
level. So where data has to be transferred from database layer to
Database layer to
application layer,
application.
right? If you select many records, the size of the data will be more, right? It will take time to transfer from database layer to application layer. When you are selecting more data, it will increase the size of the data. Just like how you when you transfer data from one mobile to another mobile, or when you are copying something from one mobile to another mobile, if you are copying um, pictures or videos with high, like huge size, right? It will take time, right?
Yes.
HD images or HD videos, it will take time because the size of the data is more in GBs. Here also, when you limit number of records which you are transferring from database to application level, it will improve the performance. It will it will transfer data quickly from database to application. Okay, so that's why always use a proper where condition to filter the data, right? To filter the data as much as possible. Okay, is everyone clear? So when you are writing the select statement, please keep in mind that do not select all the fields using select single star or select star unless it is required. Always select only required fields. What is the second important statement? Keep the result data low. Keep the result data low by using proper where condition. By using proper where condition. Filter data as much as possible, right? To improve the performance of your program. Okay. Is everyone clear? Okay. Select only required fields and keep the result data low using proper where condition. Using proper where condition. If it is possible, use as many primary keys as possible in the where condition. But for select single, it is mandatory to use all the primary keys of the database table. Okay, that is mandatory because you are asking for a single record, right? And you should be able to provide that input. What is that single record you want? But here, when we are selecting more than one record, so we are expecting multiple records. So we need to provide the matching criteria, like where city equal to Hyderabad or where city equal to Chennai, right? Where city equal to Hyderabad and department equal to SAP, like that. You need to provide as many fields as possible. In this example, if you want to select multiple records where employee ID equal to 100 and city equal to Hyderabad. In this case, you can expect only single record, even though you are using internal table. Okay. If the city is matching, for example, city is also Hyderabad, but only department is different. If you use primary key like this, where employee ID equal to 100 and city equal to, city equal to Hyderabad. How many records you can expect here? What is the result data here?
2 records.
This is the result data. This is the result data. When you write select star from zdemo empdept some table name into table where
Or query.
where sorry into table
Internal
name
table.
it underscore data where employee ID equal to 100 and city equal to Hyderabad. This is the
Hyderabad.
result data which we are going to get in the application level, right? Instead of this, if you use instead of using select star, define a type structure and use empid and comma city. Before that, you need to define the type structure. Now, what is the result data? This is the result data because you are not selecting department. Okay, is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm writing select single statement where employee ID city from department data into table where employee ID equal to 100 and department equal to Java. Sorry. What is the result data here? This one.
Only one record.
We'll select only one record into work area. If you select single star instead of selected field names, we'll select that complete record including department field also.
Department name also.
Okay. Now I want to select only one single field. I don't want all the fields of data in the result data. I'm selecting select single city from into we are selecting single, right? We should not use internal table.
Variable or work area.
Here how
Both.
many fields we are selecting?
Single field.
We are
We can
selecting
use
we
work.
are selecting a single record with single field. Only city we are selecting. Where condition
Yes.
can be anything. But in the result data, we are selecting only single city. Whatever the fields you keep here, right? So they are the result data. We are selecting only single field into you can simply define a variable with corresponding to the city field data element into variable. So it will select only one single value like HYD. That's it. This is the result data. Okay. But when you select DEPT and city, in this case, you need to define a work area. EMP ID. Okay. You need to define a work area. Here we are selecting two fields, right? DEPT and city. The result data will be like this. Java and city. One single record into work area. Is everyone clear? Is everyone clear on this?
Yes, sir.
It is very important. In the next session, we'll create a program on each type of select statements.